All right.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If this is your first time, uh, the way we do it is the polls are already done. We are a bit late for 4 minutes, but then I give some pollination updates, and today I'll do the presentation too. I'm going to present pollination apps. Oh, Abraham says he cannot hear. Can anyone else hear me? Anybody else? Okay, I think Abraham is on your side. Um, So, yep. And we'll talk about pollination apps, and then we go to questions, Q&A at the end. So if your first time, what's pollination? Pollination is an ecosystem of tools for environmental building design and simulation. Our goal is to get you from question to actionable data quickly, and not like this, more like this. So initial question, initial data, then better question, and actionable data. This is a famous chart. By now, you should have seen it. What we are trying to do, we're trying to fix this broken way of people working together and that 2-week delay between the time that you have a question and you get a feedback by introducing pollination in the middle, which helps to work like how people deliver software, so we can deliver pollination solutions, or you can deliver pollination solutions to your user without the need to, go through all that sending files back and forth. So again, because I have presented this so many times, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think most of you know about this already. The technologies that we had to build for pollination to make that happen, it used to be 4, today it will be 5. So cat plugins, we have 3 cat plugins for Rhino, Revit, Grasshopper. They're all released. You can go test them. They're going to help you to prepare your models, QA, QC, depending on different platform, or the Grasshopper one helps you for parametric studies. We have recipes. Most of the recipes that you know about Ladybug tools now are available on Pollination, and you can write your own recipes. We have cloud computing to run simulations fast and in scale. We have web interface for collaboration. And finally, now we have apps. And I'll talk about apps and how they're going to make all the things that we have built basically available to you readily and quickly, to you, your customers, your colleagues, and now you can share your expertise much easier than what it used to be. So the way they work together is on desktop side, you have the cat plugins, generate the geometry, then you create an analytical model that can be fed into recipes. There's a web interface if you want to QA, QC that analytical model. You can run it locally in a lower speed, or you can run it on Pollination faster. And then you can do result visualization both on Pollination and CAD environments. Apps didn't make it to this graph yet because it's pretty new, but that even makes this side easier than how you can use Pollination. How does it work? In a very simplified way is you need a model, then you select a recipe, then you run that recipe, and once it's done, some recipes have visualization already. Some of them you have to download and visualize it locally, or you can visualize it somewhere else. The updates that we have for the chat plugins and the platform. So for Rhino plugin, one of the things that happened between the last time that we presented and now was we introduced gem export to the Rhino plugin and the Revit plugin. This was asked for IES users a lot. We had GBXML export, but then as GBXML is, we would export it, and IES couldn't import it. We had a lot of challenges there, so we just wrote the gem file. Gem file is only geometry, so it doesn't have any metadata assigned to it, but it seems like it's good enough for people to go from Revit, Rhino to IES. We added units display under settings. So now you can manage if you want your units to be in IP or by default RSI, or if you can change the unit for each item. This is helpful if you are working in one unit or another for all the menus, so you can understand your units better, and it will be easier for QA/QC. Then we shifted the license from the license manager that we had before to a new one, and that's because of several reasons, mainly like Windows didn't update, and the older license manager that we were using was identified as virus, and like people started to just see they can't use the plugin. So now we have a new one. It is there. You can see that we have like some work also already built on the back end. So now you can check in, check out licenses very soon, and we have license pools, and we changed the license. So now all the cat licenses that will come, they're all floating licenses and can be shared between different people. One other feature that was asked a lot, mainly by mechanical engineers who have never used Rhino or haven't done 3D modeling, was to be able to draw stuff in 2D and then get it in 3D. So now we have this draw command, which helps you draw a room in plan, and then the height is there, it generates that. But more importantly, now you can draw aperture. It's similar to SketchUp or like, I don't know, any other platform that snaps to that face. You just say draw aperture. It tells you select the face. You can do Control-Shift and select it. And then you can draw it as a polyline, or you can draw it as a rectangle. So again, this was one of those things that like we heard a lot. We hope like this helps people to feel more comfortable and start using Rhino for modeling easier. What was this next? Then other improvement was like we fixed like so many different small bugs here and there, and did a lot of performance improvement for the Rhino plugin. For development roadmap, we are going to end beta testing soon. As usual, like when we want to do it, we will send an announcement on Discord, so you will know, and we will give everyone 2 weeks of trial before we switch. So there's nothing to be worried about, but I just wanted you guys know that like we are ending the beta testing for the Rhino plugin, and we are ready to finally release version 1.0, which is a big moment for us after working for years now on this plugin. Then Pollination Revit plugin, for people who wanted to go directly from Revit to IES. One more thing that we started working on, and it's like in an intermediate state right now, is we started adding a new manage room geometry. And the goal for manage room geometry is to give you access to all the rooms in a single place with a 3D preview. So when you work with it, you can start fixing them. And as you're fixing them in plan and in 3D, you can, preview them here. So you make sure it works well before exporting them. Unfortunately, the way Revit works and the way rooms are, they're not something that you can click on them on the model and edit them directly. So this has been a process. And we have plans to merge this manage room geometry and export model into one, which will come next. So you can basically go through one process, edit the stuff, fix them, and export them right away. For Pollination platform recipe, on the recipe side, so there were like new recipes that we have released. Of course, was the ones that had like a major refactor are the comfort recipes. They are now more accurate and they are faster because of the way we distribute the grids for running the studies has been improved. We also added the CAD plugins page. So you don't have to go through that discourse and then find a link. I know, like, that was not nice. So we finally have this. This looks like this is very easy. You just go there. You go to CAD plugins. You can download a free trial of the plugins if you want. And there are some frequently asked questions there. So yeah, to this one. And after that, Pollination Apps. So last time we introduced Pollination Apps, we showed some apps, and we had a roadmap. Fortunately, we just got to all the items that we promised. So we did a soft release. Pollination Streamlit library is now available on PyPy. We released a handful number of sample apps on GitHub. Then there was an announcement on Discourse that you have seen most likely with links to all the above. And what we did most recently that probably you haven't seen is we also released a first iteration of the apps gallery and how it looks like. I'll show it, like that's the rest of this presentation, so I'll talk about that more. Any questions before I want to continue? Is there any question? No, and I talked as fast as I could to make sure like we have enough time for apps. Okay, if there is no question, then I can continue, I think. So I continue to Pollination Apps. A little bit of reminder for people who have been here before, and like for if you're new, like what these Pollination Apps are. Simply what Pollination Apps are right now are the marriage between two different technologies. One is Pollination, which we are building. The other one is Streamlit, which is a Python framework for building web applications. So Pollination overall is making it easy for you to build simulation workflows. And what Streamlit does is making it easy to build data apps. And what we're doing, we're basically bringing both of them together to make it easy for you to build apps for environmental studies. The main selling point of this, or the main advantage of apps over the other solutions that we had, is the time that it takes to develop them is very quick. So, and they're visual, of course, but you can quickly go from having something, making something, deploying it, and serve it to your end user or use it yourself. If library is taking years and ages to develop, and APIs are months to years, plugins take days to weeks to develop, and this wasn't short enough and easy enough. Now with apps, which looks like a script, you can really put together things in hours to days, and they look like really good, and they're ready to use. Let me go here. There is a question. I answer your question, Abraham, later. And then here we have one more slide. So why we picked Streamlit among other platforms that are available. One was it's a Python framework, which means we can use all the core Python libraries that we have for Ladybug tools. It connects to NumPy, Pandas, all the other libraries that people are used to using. It's just part of the Python ecosystem. It's very easy to start. So the other platform that we looked into for getting a start was Dash, but then Dash is not as easy as Streamlit, and we wanted you to be able to build these apps as quickly as possible. We will see how it goes, and it's not limited to Streamlit, but we're starting with Streamlit as the framework. It integrates with several visualization libraries right now already. It has integration to whatever you can imagine in a way. You can see it on their website. And it's customizable and extendable. And as you can see, we basically customize it and extend it in a way to make a Streamlit apps easy for our users to build Pollination apps with it. So the supply chain is like this. You have users in your office, or clients, or you're a user of your own, if you're a developer too. So, and you have developers on the other side. Users are in different platforms like Rhino, Revit. They want to use these things from web, and you want to develop this only once, right? So you write an app, and you push it to Package Manager, which is on Pollination Server, and Package Manager serves them to this user interface. You can think about it like Google Play Store or Apple's App Store, that developers develop apps, they deploy to their market or App Store, and then you see it when you go on your phone. So there will be share functionalities, there will be the option to select your apps, all the things that comes with an App Store. And for the developers, the way the app is structured, so this is the architecture of an app. So you have your user interface, that's the place that you access it. And I list the libraries here, and I list the app here, right? What happens inside the app. So the first thing is inputs and outputs. The first step is to be able to talk to this app from these UIs. For this, we have built a library called Pollination Streamlit.io. And what it does, it helps you mainly connect from CAD plugins. And for now, we're going to show Rhino today, and Revit will come next. And I might have a surprise for some other platform that might be possible. But anyways, you can define your input so you can work with this app. Then the app has a logic. The app has a framework, which is a Streamlit, and it has a logic. And the logic of app is some Python code written with libraries like Pollination Streamlit, Ladybug tools, or basically any other Python libraries that you want to use. You can use all of those. And from inside the app, you can use Pollination Compute to run your simulations quickly if you want, or you can use any other third-party services. So it's like a Python application, right? So you can connect to those services, you can get the data. And when you write a logic, you usually have 2D outputs. To make it easy for you to visualize the 2D outputs, we wrote a library called Ladybug Charts. You can think about it. I'll show it again. Like when I show apps, you can see it more. But I want to give a shout out to people who developed Clima. which we learned a lot from. And I think it's kind of a full circle. Clima learned a lot from Ladybug tools, then they did the web app. So now we developed the Ladybug charts option, which is a wrapper to make those charts more usable. And of course, we added our Ladybug tools touch to it. So it has all the good features that comes with Ladybug tools technologies. Then you might want to visualize the stuff in 3D. That's where we have two libraries called Honeybee BTK and Streamlit BTK.js, which helps you quickly visualize these 3D models. And you can have other format data like PDF, CSV, I don't know, like all the data that you can generate. We show some examples of that, and those are the outputs. And the stuff that we haven't developed yet, or actually we have developed some, is these outputs can go back into your UI, right? So you can start from here, you have an app that's running, you get the output, and it goes back. Basically, I think this question, you can build anything and everything, right? Now, you can think about it like how Grasshopper talks to Rhino. Again, there are a bunch of inputs, there are a bunch of outputs, and there is logic. This logic can be anything and everything. But we have tried to make it as easy as possible to build apps on top of Pollination and Ladybug tools. So if you want to get started, again, go to Discourse and read this post. It has all the links. And if you want to get involved, there is this repository on GitHub called Sample Apps. We don't have a way for you to deploy your apps to Pollination directly, but if you have an app and you deploy it, you want to share it with everyone, if you send a PR and we merge it in, then it will show up and everyone else can use it. So let's go and get it started. Live demo. Let's see. Oh, OK, you're answering the question. So, oops, no. So if you let me go here and start from web, and then we just make our way backwards. So if you go to pollination.gallery, and for now we kept it separate from, actually don't, just follow me here. Like now it's just like everyone is just going, like if I go to pollination.gallery, you can go too. You'll see similar to, if you know Hydra, very similar to Hydra, kind of like collection of apps, right? And these are the apps that we wrote. This is a very draft version, and this will be part of Pollination later. But for now, let's just check it out. So the first one I'm going to check out is the SunPath app. So I click on SunPath here. And it takes a little bit to load because of like how we deploy the apps right now. But this is, again, just getting it started. So good place. So what this app does, it basically allows you to play with a SunPath live, right? So I can change this latitude, and then it just create the SunPath again, right? I can change it for a different place. I can change north. I can even change projection if I want, so it shows up in 2D. That's a SunPath app, right? What else I can do is, OK, I have this, and this is good, and this is a graphic. But what if I want the data? What if I want all the values for every sun position? So there is an option here that you can say generate CSV. When you do that, it basically exports all those values to CSV. And OK, let me say, I open it with Notepad++, sorry, but it's a CSV, you can see. So it's here, latitude, longitude information, month, day, hour, and you get altitude and azimuth for all these sun positions that you had in SunPath. So this is the part that I wanted to show you, that you can build a SunPath using Ladybug Tools library. Then you can show it as 3D using a Streamlit BTK.js. And then if you want, you can get that data and dump them as a CSV. So people, if they want to take it to Excel or do anything somewhere else, they can do that. Of course, the other thing that you can do is you can do the SunPath, but from an EPW file. So instead of just playing with those, I can go here to downloads and find a random EPW, or you should just load a real EPW. And now you can see that's for that location. And because it's an EPW, now I can start like loading data on top of it. So I can say load dry bulb temperature for that location, load, I don't know, like direct normal radiation. And this shows the latest one, but you can turn on the controls of the viewer as I do here. And now I can go here and switch between the data that I selected. So I selected dry bulb temperature, and you see like it changes to dry bulb temperature, and the temperature are here. And I have all the control that I have shown before because it's now in our 3D viewer, so you can do all the 3D viewer stuff with it. So interesting, but I don't know if you have any questions so far. But I can move, or I can move to the next app or to the next step. No questions so far. So
Hey, quick question, Mustafa.
go ahead.
Is it possible to get like a simple wireframe of our building and put it in the middle? I know a
Yeah.
lot of our architects love to see the building in between, you know, for client meetings and things.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't pay you to do this, but thank you for doing this. So here we go. So if you have, you help the flow pretty much. So if you have one of the latest versions of Rhino installed, Pollination Rhino, this feature was there, but we never talked about it. I mean, the older versions are not looking to the website, but if you download the version which was released, I think like an hour ago, you will have the latest version that I have here. If you type PO apps, so the same website that I just showed you is going to load inside Rhino. And this is like a native Rhino integration, right? So I'm going to load the same app that I loaded on the web. And you might notice a little bit of a difference here. So when I loaded the app here inside Rhino, now there are other stuff happening. And one of them is actually draw geometry. And I can scale it. So what I can do, and I have like a little bit more control on colors and everything. So what can really happen, I know you wanted to do it in the web app, and you can totally do it in the web app. But this thing, what I'm showing now here is, if I go here and browse file to the same weather file, here we go. So the web app that I just showed, when you load it to inside Rhino, it becomes a Rhino app. Does it make sense? No, maybe? So let me do this. So if I go here and do the same thing here and change the latitude, it's basically interacting inside Rhino from the web app. I didn't change the web app. This is the same web app that I just loaded on the on that website. So I can go back here. You can see these are the same things. So next one that I'm going to show you is, and for now, like I'm going to go again, like doesn't matter. So some of these apps, based on how they have been designed, change when they are loaded inside Rhino. And this is something that we will add. So you can say, you know, give me only the apps that loads in Rhino, or give me only the apps that loads in Revit, or the ones that only on the web. But some of them are the same where it goes. So I'm going to move to the second app that we developed to show. This is an outdoor comfort app. That what it does, similar to SunPass, it uses the libraries that we have. By default, it works for Boston. And this is a kind of like replicating part of the climate application. And you can see now, like what we do, we basically have a default EPW, or I can upload a different EPW if I want. And what it does, it calculates UTCI. Because we are using Plotly, and Plotly has all these great things. So all these apps now you can hover on top of them and they give you value. You can save, download them as PNG if you want. You can make them like auto scale everything. You can also do this. You just like make it larger. And then you can have different controls. And this is the part that it makes it Ladybug Tools friendly, right? So one of the things I can do, I can change the color set to be thermal comfort. We have conditional statement. I'm not going to change it, but instead of UTCI temperature, I'm going to show comfort condition, which is like 3 conditions, right? Cold, comfortable, and hot. And then I can run different scenarios. So this is no wind and sun. I can say what happens if we add wind. So it's 52.89, right? And when you don't protect from wind, or basically we can go backward. If you get all the wind, you see all these areas here around April are cold. But then if you protect from wind, you have a good potential of like adding to comfort here. Then there is sun, there is add wind and sun. So I can go quickly and see like how different the strategies makes an effect. This is something that if you have used Ladybug Tools and Grasshopper, most of you at some point have built. Or if you have seen our workshops, we always built this thing, right? Is the SunPass geometry shown in the Rhino viewport baked, or is it a temporary rendered similar to Grasshopper? I go back there, then the answer is it both. It can be both. But now staying here, so I have all this. Within this speed grade, you send it to your person, everyone in your office, and you know what they tell you. They tell you, this is great, but can I have a PDF? So yes, you can. So just to show, and now you can export a report here. And it takes some time because it just goes through everything. Again, like these apps, we have to work on performance still, but it shows you the concepts of what's possible. And now I can download the PDF, and I'm going to open it with Firefox. I need to save it. So this is my app based on the file that I loaded, based on the information that I put in, and all this stuff. So the first one I showed you, you can do CSV. I showed you can connect with Rhino. And this one I'm showing you, you can also download PDF. So I go back to our next app, and I'll answer Dan's question. So Dan, to answer your question, and I didn't clean it up. So when you get this here, there are two. This option that we have here is only draw, but there is another option to bake geometry. I'll show it in a second. So you can bake it if you want to bake it. So for this SunPass right now, the one that we have exposed is draw geometry, but there is no reason we cannot expose to bake it into Rhino. Fully automated daylight and energy reports. Yes, that's the next step. Unfortunately, I couldn't finish the app for today to show it, but like I'll do it next. In our next presentation, or between this presentation and next one, we'll do that. So the third one, let me actually load this one from the web, and then I go back to Rhino. So just to show you guys, if you're developers and you want to get it started, we put a weather data analysis app together. It's not finished, right? And it doesn't do PDF yet. The main reason here and because all the source code is available, so for you guys to see all the potential and to see all the different charts that we have prepared. So this one actually does a little bit more fancy stuff. It creates an image here. It adds the map here, which comes with the Streamlit. Then you have the heat map that I just showed. You have bar charts. You have this chart, which is like, I don't know what they call it, line chart with some on top of each other, per hour line chart. You have SunPass in 2D, and then like you can do same stuff here, like I can load data on top of it. And I think this is the part that I want to say, like we added all the things that you guys are used to, right? And this can be this, and you're not going to be unemployed people. Like you're going to build more apps, right? That's the point. Like, and you're not going to build the same Grasshopper script like 20 times, because a lot of this, as you see, like we are developing these apps, and we will develop and we will release it, and everyone can use. And you can do your own and add it there. So this is like windrows. We also have psychrometric chart, which kind of is my favorite. It's much better than what you can do in Grasshopper. You can do all the comfort polygons, like if you want to draw them. You can do, like, you can put different data type. It's really good and handy. And again, I want to give another shout out to Clima people, because we learned a lot about like how they started, but then we developed on top of that and made it more programmable and reusable, and added all the Ladybug tools and stuff to it. And again, you can like just screenshot this, or you can write some code to PDF to generate a PDF, which is something that we will do. Is there any other questions for me so far? Does the app in Rhino feature requires Pollination Cat plugin subscription? For running the app inside Rhino, you need a Rhino plugin. Yes, you need a license of a Rhino plugin. And when we move it to Revit, you need a license of a Revit plugin. And these apps itself, this will go inside Pollination. So because for doing the fully automated thing that you just mentioned, we need to know who you are. So we need to save the data in a place that we can bring it back. So for example, I'm now out of that weather data app. If I go back, all the settings that I put there are gone, right? You don't want that to happen ideally in future. But then with that, I go to the next app here, which is Context 3D. So people asked us to, in one of the user meetups that we had, that if it's possible to generate the context using using Pollination instead of for Rhino plugin instead of just drawing it every time or bringing it from somewhere else. So this kind of like these apps has nothing necessarily with environmental design. What it does, it takes, and this one we limited it to a couple of locations, but it makes a call to OpenStreetMap under the hood. And what it does, it loads the context, and after it loads, it shows it here. Similar to what I showed for SunPath. I don't know if Dan is still here, but this is, now I can answer your question. So there is an option to say draw geometry, and this is going to draw geometry. This is not geometry still in Rhino, right? It's like Grasshopper preview, you can think about it. And then to just show like what are the things that you can do, you can actually change the context color here. And this is a sync, which is good because it doesn't lock your screen. You can do, and it just loads it whenever it's ready. Probably we should have something to move it here. We didn't expose it, but we can do that. But one of the things that it has here, when you're happy with your everything, you can actually bake geometry. So this was not in the SunPath, where we can add it. So what I can do here, I can do bake geometry. And now I'm going to turn off the preview. Now you can see everything is baked into Rhino. Where is preview? Oh, I didn't want to do render, but okay, this looks good. So now you can see all the stuff that I wanted to do without leaving Rhino, without doing anything. I can just use this context app, add context to Rhino. Again, we have more apps. I can show more. I can go on and on, but I like to answer more questions. Maybe I should load this app from the web to show the difference. So if I load the same app, Context 3D, from the web, you get the same interface, you get the same functionality, but then you don't have that baked to Rhino or preview. Here you can download a GeoJSON, or you can download as Ladybug JSON and then load it back.
There are some questions, Mustafa. So before you go into other apps, maybe you can answer some of the questions.
Love to answer questions.
Yeah, I guess the first one related to 3D context app, like, does it have custom latitude or longitude inputs?
Yeah, you can do it here. I mean, again, like all these apps, you can develop it on your own. Let me do 60. I think it will end up in the middle of nowhere. But you can, yes, nothing is there. So I don't know, what was the number? What about 50? So it just, this goes and tries to read those. This is just, and the source code is open. You can see how it works. This is what we designed for this presentation. But if you want features to change, then you can send it on Discourse and say, I like this app, we're using it, but I want to use it like this and that. And we can modify the apps to be the way that you want to use them. It's
So
totally possible.
Yeah, the follow-up question is, how much Python knowledge is required to build an app from scratch if you don't want to go the Discourse route?
Here we go.
Ooh, build an app workshop.
No,
Great
I'm not going
idea.
to build that. I'm not going to go that far, but it's basically very similar to writing a notebook. So if you know how to write a Python notebook, if you have used Python, it's very similar to scripting, unlike recipe. I can think of it, I can put it this way. So writing a recipe is like writing a component for Ladybug tools. Not many of you have done like a full component for Ladybug tools because you have to know a lot of things, a lot of standards. Writing an app is like editing one of those in GH Python component. A lot of you have done that because you just basically start writing some Python code and it just works. And that's why we picked the Streamlit. So the code for SunPath, if I want to show you, you see, like, this is the sidebar that we added. So latitude, longitude, all those stuff. But then the code that creates the SunPath is just this. So you have SunPath from location. It creates the SunPath. If it's latitude, longitude, it uses SunPath. And then for VTK.js, we have a call under SunPath. It will be just you copy pasting from our sample codes and put it together. It's really easy. And we intentionally spent a lot of time make all these APIs available to make it really easy. This VTK.js thing, to VTK.js, used to be like 50, 60 lines of code. But thanks to Devang, basically he refactored everything. You just say to VTK.js, it just happens. You know, and the 3D modeler, let me show you that. That's, I think, my favorite part. because to show stuff in 3D, okay, JS, so I should do st-vtk.js. This is it. This is the viewer. So it reads that vtk.js file and says menu, and then make a key if you have different viewers. And this just pops up that viewer for you. So you don't have to be worried about any of those stuff. And all the apps that I showed today, they're all available here with all the source code under separate folders. So help yourself.
So if you were to categorize that as beginner, intermediate, expert level Python knowledge, how would you
I think
categorize that?
as a beginner, you can start with our samples. If you're intermediate Python, you should have no issues. You don't need to be
awesome.
advanced. Yeah.
And before you go on to the next app, Yafim just wanted to clarify, can you indicate the latitude and longitude through Rhino instead of through the web app?
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Very good question. We talked about it, and it's possible. Right now, we don't pass location data from Rhino. But if we just pass that data to the app, you can take that and say, use Rhino location instead of using the location. It's very possible, yes. And I think this is something to do. Thank you. Okay, what's the next question?
So the next question is from Justin, and he's asking, how many apps and what apps are you guys planning? He wants a roadmap of the apps that we're planning to develop.
That slide is here.
Okay, we're getting there.
2 slides.
Okay.
I mean, I can go there. Let me go there. I think like I showed enough apps, and it's just like there are more apps I can show. But for example, this is under construction app. I put this for our, again, mechanical engineer friends. So like if you want geometry wizards and you don't want to just build the model like, you know, in Rhino, we're building a geometry wizard. So you can quickly build a model, you know, from a geometry wizard, like a square, I don't know, L shape, all the famous, so whatever eQuest provides. And I think people like a lot. I think we can replicate something like that. This is under construction. It didn't make it. But then there are more under construction apps that didn't make it. But I just wanted to go here and give you what comes next view, which I think like covers some of the questions. So right now we don't support deploying apps to Pollination. If you are the one that is just like, you have different options. One is you can put them on a Streamlit. Streamlit already provides what's it called, a hosting service for you to put your apps, but then the apps are not going to be added to our navigators. The other solution that you have is to send a PR to the repository that I showed, and we can add them so everyone can use them. But this is something that will come. We don't have it right now. I don't know if we will have it fully functional by the next meetup that we have, but it's on top of the list of what we have and what we are working on. The next step is improving the 3D viewer. So 3D viewer is great and it works, but then if you want to get a little bit more advanced and do interaction with 3D viewer, every time it has to restart. We will add an API, make it easier for you so you can do all this stuff. Next thing is integration with Rhino. We want to improve that and start the integration with Revit so you can see it. And this is the place that feedback like this, for example, can I get location from Rhino? These are very helpful for us. Right now, I can post to tell you what exactly we export, but just for this call, before we write a post, is like you can send models like HB-JSON models back and forth. You can send geometry back and forth, and I don't remember what else you can send back and forth, but like you have control of, and you can do preview. You can draw stuff inside Rhino, as I just showed, from inside the app. And then we are here to write more apps based on your feedback requests. So in what we have on the list is to write apps that shows like how to run simulation. Like the one that I was trying to write was sunlight average, radiation study, all the things that we know people want to do for early stage, and go from there to all the, you know, very advanced parametric studies that you want to do. The interesting thing about apps, and you can think about like Grasshopper integration with Rhino, is if we provide you the layer for integration for like getting the geometry data easily from Rhino or Revit, and giving you the option for exporting them easily, like any data that you have, whatever happens in the middle is up to you. It's just like what you can do with Grasshopper script. You can do whatever you want. right? This is like that. It's I love to hear like what are the things that people want to for us to develop, and this is something that I just said just to show as a bonus surprise. We actually tested integration with the SketchUp because when like people always say, "What about the SketchUp?" And we have to say, okay, maybe a SketchUp. So we tested if we can integrate pollination on top of Open Studio app in a SketchUp, and you can see here Antonello adding the windows and everything. And the answer is yes, it's possible because this technology is very abstract in a way. It's like we can put this technology inside different CAD plugins, right? Now it's getting the model from inside the SketchUp and exporting it and then opening it in Rhino so you can see the same HVJSON comes in as, but we don't need to bring it to Rhino. This is an example. You can just, from there, you can connect it to all the apps that I just showed today. With that, I think I'm ready to answer all the questions, unless like people want me to build apps live for the next 10 minutes. Yeah.
No, there is one question. Matthias is asking if there's going to be an app store. I knew this was going to come up as an option
Yes.
where users can sell their apps. And
yes, in our document, we have that for the long future. And the reason is we have the whole infrastructure, but we want to test it first and ensure everything works on our side. And like the apps that we are sharing for now are free, but this is natural to an app store like this, that at some point people want to sell their apps. One thing that you can do after the apps are deployed to Pollination and before selling it through Pollination is similar to what we do with recipes. Because you will have role-based access control, you can build an app and only share it with a certain group of people, and they can pay you as a contract for developing the apps. Does it make sense? So they don't buy the app on Pollination, they pay you for the app, and then you share the app using our RBAC, similar to how you can share a private recipe to a Pollination. So that will be the plan. Yes. Is there any other questions?
I don't see any in the chat, but if there's anyone on the call who wants to just unmute, I think this is a pretty casual gathering, so do feel free to unmute and share any thoughts.
Are there any plans for integration with Hypar? In what sense? Like if Samuel is still here, I mean, the question is in what sense? It can, as I showed in this chart, like, here you go. If you're talking about the context of apps, you can basically call any API from inside the app. This way you can integrate with Hypar, and Hypar can integrate back because we have an SDK.
Yeah, Samuel's not on the call anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Aziz is asking if there's a roadmap to include CFD.
This has been asked. It's not going to happen anytime soon unless we can find the right person to take over. Because all the people we have on our team right now, we basically, our main goal for 2022 is to work on apps and just make the whole ecosystem work for what we have built. Because of this functionality, there can be other CFD providers that we can integrate to. But if the question was like butterfly development, I don't think we are going to pick up butterfly development anytime soon, at least for the next 6 months. It's not going to happen.
So the follow-up to that is there an app for LCA assessments?
It can be one.
Yeah, we've talked about this internally a little bit on, maybe.
So let me just say like where we stand with this. Generally speaking, so LCA and all this post-process metrics that comes out is basically multiplying your output of your simulation with some numbers. And we know how to multiply numbers, right? The reason we don't put it there because that number is like, it has been really hard to find a source that numbers are really reliable. And like you can see how easy this is getting. Like people can go in Rhino, have an app open there, click on it, and it will work. And there is a good potential that you run LCA and not multiply numbers for things coming from China for a project in US, or do the reverse, doing some project in China and do it for US. So the thing for us has been mostly like the quality of that LCA calculation more than like can we do. We can do it, but we have been very careful about just jumping and just add multiply with some numbers and here you go. This is your output. Okay, hopefully I answered the question.
So there's a question that just came in, Mustafa, if you want to read that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Matthias. So the thing is, the Danish LCA comes out in its open API and it's free. Yeah, you can do an app together and make sure like you have a note up there. This is for project in Denmark. This is Danish standards. People don't run it for the projects in the US and your numbers. I think that has been, I think it will be great if you have some local LCAs, right? That will be very interesting to say there are like hundreds of LCA apps and like they are developed for like local data from different countries. And then like if you have enough, then we can say, okay, let's build like a master app because now we know different data sets. So now based on your location, we can say this is the best one that you should be using. Yeah, it will be a process. I mean, I have not said this about any of the products that we have developed so far, but I think these apps are going to change how we basically work together in midterm, because the possibilities are just like whatever you can do, whatever you want, whatever you can do in Python. And even because of endpoints, it doesn't need to be in Python. Even if the service is somewhere else, you can just call it, get the data, put it together, and bring it to the user. So that's something that was not possible before. Now it's very easy to do. Can we have a tutorial session for an app creation? Yeah, I love to. If you, I can, yeah, okay, sure. I don't think we want to use the user meetup for it because, but we can have another session. We can plan for a session. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can plan for a session and then do it. I'd love to write some apps. So before that, we need to know what we want to develop. Maybe we redevelop the sun path. But yeah, why not?
Okay.
Okay, how do you feel about apps from 1 to 5? Maybe we should do a poll. Like, what do you think about apps? Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, they just added to the chat box this new
It was
poll feature.
more of a joke, people, but thank you. Like, yeah, oh, okay. Like everybody, I think like I'm just testing my level of excitement. Yeah, like so.
Yeah.
I'm happy that like the message comes across that like a lot of things can be done now, much easier than what it used to be. And people who are working in large offices or people who are consultants now, like instead of like going building the whole infrastructure, you should be able to develop an app and just like give it to your customer like in a fraction of time and without oversimplifying everything, right? Because it's custom, you can really customize it and make sure it's still accurate and it's accessible and it's fast and all the good things that people want.
I see a few ways that the apps could have like applicable uses. The one is kind of how you showed it today, and I mean you showed both ways. But the point is like one is using it to kind of circumvent all the needs of pulling Grasshopper components together, allowing designers who might not be comfortable with Ladybug and Honeybee and Grasshopper to still do climate analysis, to allow us to even do it faster than we currently can by pulling up a Grasshopper script and rearranging things as needed. But the other way I kind of see it is a way to cut out Rhino and Revit in some capacity and just do some very quick climate studies, to just say, these are the key takeaways from vernacular architecture we could figure out for the climate. These are some of the strategies that would be best. Utilizing Ladybug and Honeybee to kind of test a few of them really quickly and visualize and show, the benefits of shading or, blocking wind and things like that. And so the idea being there might be a potential to just say like, we develop a tool and this now becomes our climate analysis tool in a way that we can just go to a web page and do so without needing to, get someone who's frankly living in Revit to now open Rhino and figure out how to, do that process. And I know that there's, stream apps may be coming for Revit in the future. But
Oh, they are definitely coming to Revit. Not
cool.
maybe.
I guess I just like the idea of not needing to use Revit and Rhino, mostly because it can sometimes take like a long time to open a model when you really just want to do something simple like a climate study.
Yeah,
But anyway,
totally.
I see it kind of two ways. One is like it builds with the idea of making the Rhino process easier. The other one being what apps could just cut out Rhino completely. And I see that kind of how you're developing now with the draw, the geometry, or just showing it. But it would be nice if there were kind of ways to think about that.
I mean, that's how it works. So if I go, let me show you maybe this so you can see. So this is the, and again, it's not going to run, but this is the one that I was developing for sunlight average study, right? And if you load it normal, it just says drop a model. There are HVJSON. It can be 3D or it can be anything. And this is inside web, and you don't need to go to Rhino or Revit or any CAD.
You're not sharing your screen, Mustafa.
I did this again.
Every time.
I'm not learning my lesson. I'm sorry. So here, this is, and I'm running this locally just to try to answer your question. Let me do this. These apps are designed to run from web first. So it's up to the designer of the app to make sure that happens, right? So what happens here, in this one, this is the site that I'm just running it from the web, right? And in this case, you don't need Rhino, Revit, anything. You just put your upload, you can upload an HPJSON file here. So I can upload it here. And this basically is my HPJSON file. You know, I can continue everything that I want to do. It can be a 3D file if I want. And you don't need to go to Rhino. You just do it directly from inside the web. But what happens when you do it from inside Rhino, this is how it senses it. Oh, actually, I did it wrong. So when you load this from Rhino or Revit, based on the design of the app, now you see this thing change to get pollination model. And this is something that I can show in that workshop that we do. But yes, that's exactly what we're doing. All these apps should be accessible from inside the web in one way or another. Weather example is a very good one because you don't need really Rhino or Revit or anything for that. So absolutely. So many questions now, and we're going over. So should I just answer questions quickly? You're on mute now, Junkie.
Oh, sorry. I've been answering some of them. A lot of the questions have to do with Ladybug Tools learning material. The only question that I haven't answered yet, and I was planning to answer, was with regards to what licenses someone should purchase. And it was actually a question from Matthias, who just got back. I see a little baby there. We're answering your question about licenses. Hi.
I know her. Hi, Johanna. She's my friend.
She's adorable.
So for licensing, for using this, right now, because they are outside pollination, you know, you need no license, right? It just runs on app.gallery and we deployed it, everyone can use it. But when it comes to pollination, there are two ways that you can run an app. One is a preview mode, which can run it as free. It will have a short amount of time and it will have limited licenses. The other one is production mode. And when you run it in production mode, it basically runs under your account. So the whole pricing will be similar to the rest of the pricing. There will be compute average that you use for the app to be up, and that will be charged to your account. Like it's similar to how you run a simulation. It's just CPU average that you use based on the machine that you use and based on the resources that you use. So there is no separate license, at least for now, for using the apps. It's part of the pollination ecosystem.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's the gist of the questions, and yeah, we can end the meeting here. I will stop recording.
Thank you, and we'll see you next month. Thank you, everyone. Take care. See you on the forum.